Alright, let's talk about something wild. Have you ever noticed how the playbook for a toxic ex-boyfriend sounds exactly like the foreign policy of a rogue state? I know, stay with me. It's like, 1 minute chat is telling you, babe, I only read your texts because I care about your safety. And the next, a government is saying, we only installed this spyware because we care about national security. The scale is different, but the vibe, the logic, it's identical. It's this universal script of control that scales up from our DMs to global dynamics, from the personal to the political. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. We're going to break down this playbook. This isn't just about calling out bad actors, whether they're leaving you on read or vetoing UN resolutions. It's about understanding the mechanics of power. How does an insecurity, a tiny seed of trauma, grow into this giant suffocating redwood of dominance? How does someone, or some country, convince the world they're the victim while holding all the cards? It's a masterclass in psychological warfare, and it's happening all around us, from our living rooms to the world stage. We're going to dissect it, piece by piece, because recognizing the game is the first step to refusing to play. So get ready. We're diving deep into the architecture of abuse and aggression. We'll look at how narratives are built, how power is hoarded, and how entire populations get gaslit into thinking, maybe it's me, maybe I'm the drama. No, you're not. They just have a really, really good and really old script. We're about to put that script on blast, right here, right now. Let's get into it. Everything starts somewhere, right? For this playbook, it starts with a wound, a deep foundational insecurity. Think about it on a personal level. Someone gets cheated on, and instead of healing, they decide never again. But never again doesn't mean building trust. It means demanding passwords, tracking locations, needing constant control. They're not building a relationship. They're building a fortress around their fear. Their entire identity becomes about preventing that past pain, and the only tool they know is dominance. It's a trauma response that's gone rogue, mistaking control for safety. It's the origin story for every villain who says they're just trying to protect themselves. Now blow that up to the national level. A country loses a war, its economy collapses, or it feels humiliated on the world stage. That's a collective wound. So what happens? They might not go to therapy. Instead, they start building. Not bridges, but bigger armies. They rewrite their history books to emphasize past glories and present grievances. Their foreign policy becomes hyper-aggressive, paranoid. Every neighbor is a potential threat. Every treaty is a potential trap. They build an identity around being the strong one, the one who will never be taken advantage of again. This isn't about healing the national psyche. It's about smothering that insecurity with military parades and nationalist rhetoric, creating a shell of power to hide the fragile core within. So you've got this wound, and you're acting out. But you can't just say, hey world, I'm deeply insecure, so I'm going to control everything around me. That doesn't play well. So you need a story, a mask. This is where the aggressor flips the script and casts themselves as the victim. The controlling boyfriend isn't a stalker. He's a protector who's been hurt before. He's just trying to keep you safe from a world he knows is dangerous. He'll tell your friends, she's so naive, I have to look out for her. Suddenly, his paranoia is framed as profound love, and your desire for privacy is framed as secrecy or betrayal. He's not the villain, he's the tragic hero. On the global stage, this is a masterpiece of political theater. The invading nation isn't the aggressor, it's liberating a supposedly oppressed population. Or it's conducting a preemptive strike to defend itself from a threat that, conveniently, only it can see. They will bombard the media with stories of their own historical suffering, positioning their current actions as a necessary, defensive response to generations of injustice. They aren't expanding their territory, they're reclaiming their rightful homeland. This victim narrative is crucial. It's not for the person or country they're targeting, it's for the audience. It's designed to confuse bystanders and make them think, well, it's complicated. They have a point, it's the ultimate smokescreen. A story alone isn't enough. You need to back it up with a power structure that makes challenging you almost impossible. This is the consolidation phase. In a relationship, this is where the abuser systematically isolates their partner. It starts small. Your friends are a bad influence. Your family doesn't get our love. They create financial dependency, making it harder for the victim to leave. They monopolize their partner's time and emotional energy until their entire world shrinks to the size of the relationship. Every social connection, every dollar, every ounce of self-esteem becomes a tool they control. Resistance becomes unthinkable because the victim has no resources left to resist with. Now scale it. A nation doesn't just tell a story. It builds an apparatus of control. It builds up its military until it dwarfs its neighbors. It forges strategic alliances that ensure no one will intervene. It uses economic leverage, controlling trade routes or essential resources, forcing smaller nations into compliance. It takes over the media, so the only narrative the public hears is the state-approved one. They pass laws that silence dissent, labeling activists as traitors or terrorists. The goal is to create a reality where their power is absolute. It's a slow, methodical process of removing every single lever of opposition until the only option left for everyone else is submission. It's checkmate before the game even begins. Okay, so you have the power, you have the narrative, but there's a problem: human empathy. It's hard to hurt people when you see them as people. So, you have to flip a switch. You have to dehumanize them. This is where language becomes a weapon. In a toxic relationship, the partner isn't a person with valid feelings anymore. They become crazy, hysterical, a psycho. Their arguments aren't legitimate points, they're emotional outbursts. This labeling does two things. It dismisses their perspective entirely, and it makes the abuser's cruelty feel justified. You're not ignoring a person, you're just managing a problem. It's a psychological trick to absolve yourself of guilt. On a mass scale, this is the most dangerous tool in the playbook. You don't commit genocide against people. You do it against vermin, cockroaches, or infestations. You don't occupy a country of civilians. You occupy a nest of terrorists. Propaganda posters, political speeches, and state media all work in concert to strip the target group of their humanity. They are painted as subhuman, inherently violent, or an existential threat. Once you've successfully labeled an entire group of people as less than human, you've given your soldiers and your citizens permission to do the unthinkable. It sanitizes violence, turning a moral crime into a pest control problem. It's the final green light for atrocity. This part is genius in the most diabolical way. The aggressor doesn't just want to dominate. They want the victim to like the crazy one. So they create a trap, the cycle of provocation and retaliation. The controlling partner will poke and prod, push boundaries, make subtle digs, and ignore requests for respect over and over. They know that eventually, anyone would snap. And when the victim finally yells, cries, or throws something in sheer frustration, the abuser calmly steps back and says, See how unstable you are? I'm the calm one here. You're the one with the problem. They engineered the explosion, then used the fallout as proof of your instability. Nations do this constantly. An aggressor state will violate airspace, fund opposition groups, impose minor sanctions, or park warships just off the coast of another country. These are all calculated provocations designed to get a reaction. They are poking the bear. When the targeted nation finally responds, maybe by shooting down a drone or making an angry speech at the UN, the aggressor turns to the world and says, See? We told you they were aggressive. We told you they were a threat to regional stability. Our actions are completely justified now. They set a fire and then blame the person who screamed fire for causing a panic. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, manufactured to perfection. No abuser, big or small, operates in a vacuum. They thrive because of the silence and complicity of those around them. This is the institutional shield. In a personal dynamic, this is the friend group that says, we don't want to take sides, or the family that says, that's just how he is, you should be more patient. Their inaction creates a protective bubble around the abuser. By refusing to intervene, they are sending a clear message to the victim, you are on your own. This silence isn't neutral, it's a form of endorsement. It tells the abuser that their behavior has no social consequences, so they can continue, unchecked. It's the quiet that allows the noise of abuse to echo. Globally, this shield is made of geopolitics and money. It's the international bodies that are paralyzed by veto power, unable to condemn obvious aggression because one powerful member protects the aggressor. It's the corporations that continue to do business with oppressive regimes, prioritizing profit over human rights. It's the allied nations that look the other way, offering weak statements of concern while continuing to sell weapons to the very country causing the problem. These institutions and countries become the silent audience, watching the play unfold but refusing to boo the villain off the stage because they're benefiting from the show. Their silence isn't diplomacy, it's complicity. It's the ultimate betrayal. What happens when this goes on for long enough? It becomes normal. The constant tension, the daily aggressions, the background hum of injustice, it all fades into the wallpaper of life. This is the fog of normalization. For the person in an abusive relationship, the daily anxiety feels normal. Being checked up on constantly feels normal. Walking on eggshells feels normal. Their baseline for what a relationship should be has been so warped, they forget what peace feels like. The extraordinary has become ordinary. Friends might even stop asking if they're okay because the crisis has been going on for so long it's just the status quo. It's a slow-boiling frog situation. For an occupied or oppressed population, this is the grim reality of a long-term conflict. Checkpoints, surveillance, and the threat of violence become part of the daily commute. Generations are born into a world where their rights are limited, and they have no memory of a time before. The international community moves on to the next crisis, and the news cycle forgets. The ongoing oppression becomes a frozen conflict, a permanent feature of the geopolitical landscape. The fog is so thick that people, both inside and out, begin to accept the unacceptable. They forget to be outraged because they can no longer remember what it was like to not be outraged. The injustice has become boring, and that is its most powerful camouflage. So how does this end? The system is designed to be a closed loop. It feeds on itself. It protects itself. It normalizes itself. It ends when someone becomes a disruptor, someone who refuses to play the game. In a personal setting, this could be the one friend who doesn't accept the "it's complicated" excuse. The one who keeps showing up, who offers a spare room, who says, "What's happening to you is not okay, and I will not pretend it is." It can be the victim themselves, who, through incredible courage, decides to document everything, to speak out, to leave. This person is a glitch in the matrix of control. They break the silence, and in doing so, they break the spell. On a global scale, disruptors are essential. They are the journalists who risk their lives to report the truth from behind the blockade. They are the whistleblowers who leak documents that expose the government's lies. They are the grassroots activists who organize boycotts and protests that bring economic pressure. They are the countries that break with their allies to vote their conscience at the UN. These acts puncture the narrative of the aggressor. They introduce a new story, a true story, into the information ecosystem. They remind the world that the fog of normalization is just that, a fog, and it can be clear. They don't always win right away, but they create a crack in the foundation, and that's where the light gets in. So that's the playbook. From the seed of a personal wound to the fog of a normalized war, the patterns are the same. It's a ladder of escalation built on insecurity, masked by a victim narrative, and held up by power, dehumanization, and silence. And seeing it laid out like this, it's infuriating, right? It feels overwhelming, like a system too big and too entrenched to ever change. Whether you see it in a friend's toxic relationship or on the nightly news, the sheer audacity of this playbook can make you feel powerless. But here's the thing about a playbook. Once you know the plays, you can anticipate the moves. Recognizing the pattern is the first, most crucial act of defiance. It's turning on the lights in a dark room. The abuser, the aggressor, they rely on confusion, on isolation, on you believing their narrative. When you can calmly say, "I see what you're doing." That's provocation. That's dehumanization. That's narrative construction. You take away their most powerful weapon. You refuse to be gaslit. You refuse to be part of the silent audience. This knowledge doesn't just give you clarity, it gives you agency. It transforms you from a character in their drama to an observer who sees the whole stage. And that is where the hope is. It's in the disruptors. It's in every single one of us who refuses to accept the unacceptable as normal. It's in calling it what it is, whether it's to a friend over coffee or by sharing a report from an independent journalist online. Power looks impenetrable, but it's often a hollow shell. By unmasking it, by understanding its mechanics, we don't just see it for what it is, we begin the process of dismantling it. The playbook is public domain, but so is the courage to tear it up. Thanks for watching.